We got a phone call.
The day that time stopped, the whole thing's just exploding. Things are out of our control. Praying desperately. 100 times it looked like God was doing a miracle.
Incredible hope and then just devastation over and over again.
We were just trying to get 15 minutes down the road. At that point, I looked at Lynette. I said, "Are you telling me you still believe in God?" It's much quieter. Oldest boys have gone to college, so we just have one boy here, and he's in high school, a senior.
A lot of times we're in the kitchen, hanging out in the kitchen. Johnson.
It changes every week.
Johnson is like having 3 children at home. He is our most passionate child. He gives it, when he's in something, he gives it his all, but it may only be for 2 weeks until he changes to the next thing.
I like a lot of things and I change my interests constantly. That's kind of the joke, is that what is Johnson on to next?
Right now it's acting.
A year ago, it was getting a scholarship and playing D1 basketball.
Skateboarding, music, art.
Athletics.
6 months ago, it was he maybe won't go to college and he's going to open up a gym.
I've started taking film classes and acting as well.
Jack is 22, very logical.
I just graduated from Texas A&M University with a degree in aerospace engineering, and now I'm the touring guitar player for a worship artist.
That son, I've just tried to stay out of his way and support him because he's mature and wise.
Jamesy has always been, well, we call him stealthy. He's under the radar.
He's a deep thinker and very funny.
I'm going to school for film, so film and TV are really my main interests right now.
And his name is James, but we like to say Jamesy because Sydney called him Jamesy.
Sydney was spunky.
The only word is spunk.
Spunky.
Spunky, confident.
Almost that movie star personality of when somebody comes in the room and you just want to be interested and involved in whatever they're doing. That was her, even as a 3-year-old.
Sydney is the basis for my faith. Seeing who she was and how she handled herself, you can see God's hand through her.
She was hilarious and all while being under intense pain. She was just unbreakable.
Well, Sydney had a sore throat, and so I took her to see the doctor. She had strep throat. At that time, she was 6. The doctor had been a little concerned about a bruise on her leg. She had fallen off her bike, and her handlebars hit her, and she had a really dark bruise. And so they had taken a blood test, and he thought, it was probably nothing, but he wanted to be sure. Well, we got a phone call on Saturday. They wanted us to get to Children's Hospital as fast as we could.
The day that time stopped, the whole thing's just kind of exploding and things are out of our control.
They're trying to figure out what it is.
They were hoping it was a virus, but they thought it was likely it's a childhood leukemia that they have huge success in treating. That is the way that it started, and we're praying desperately, please just be the virus. And
it was leukemia, but what kind? And
it's not that kind of leukemia. We're not positive what's going on. And well, it's a more serious leukemia.
Praying constantly that just helped me to be calm now and hold her hand and encourage her and give her peace and hope and a hug and a smile and help me just to be mom in this moment when I'm terrified. Her final diagnosis was leukemia, but it was AML, which is a form that you usually see in adults,
With the bad gene,
a chromosome.
chromosome.
She had a chromosome that affected the treatment. There was all this talk about Sydney needs to go to a bigger hospital to get a bone marrow transplant. They decided to send us to New York. We ended up staying in New York in a whole year.
As Sydney became sick, and all of a sudden my parents were having to deal with that primarily, and it felt like a lot of responsibility was quickly laid on me just to be over my brothers as we walked through that. I was 15.
Lynette was magnificent. She was looking out for Sydney. I tried to put on a good face, and even though I'm such a basket case underneath, I understood that fear was contagious, and so I wanted to not have it a real fearful environment as much as possible. We tried not to hide much from them, again, age appropriate, because they were 8th grade, 6th grade, 3rd or 4th grade, I guess. So it was amazing how normal my worst fear coming true and how we were able to laugh and do fun stuff in the hospital.
I spent a ton of time there. We would sneak me in and have me spend the night in her princess tent that she had in the room.
All her hair was gonna fall out, so she decided to get it cut. And she put it all in a braid and then cut it at the braid with all the bands in so it stayed all together. And then she would sit back on her pillow and have it behind her and ask a nurse to tug on her hair, and the nurse would pull it out and freak out. She thought of that all by herself.
James Johnson and I are for the most part, we were trying to make life normal, attend school.
They had gone from us hovering over them to doing, being on their own. It was very difficult for them.
Sometimes have a parent there, sometimes not have any parents there, sometimes be with both parents, sometimes be with half your siblings. And we Skyped a lot. Almost daily we would Skype.
We started this blog. It was a way that we could tell everybody the same thing at one time. When it turned out to be such a blessing to us in return because they could write in and encourage us.
The blog started right after Sydney entered the hospital, and we've kept it up on the internet just in the event that it might help someone.
When people told me they've read her blog, I'm just amazed that they kept reading, because it's a very hard story to read about. "100 times, no exaggeration, it looked like God was doing a miracle only to get kicked in the face." Now the problem is, I was interpreting things the way I was hoping they would come out. Just when you start going, okay, it's this children's leukemia, but she's gonna survive. Well, no, it's actually more serious. They do a couple of tests. Okay, we're gonna get her on this regime and try to get you all in and back out of here. There's fungus in her lungs. We're gonna put her through a chemo. Kills 40% of the adults, but children are much more resilient. You're sitting there talking about your baby and pumping them full of chemicals that might kill them on their own. We would have incredible hope and then just devastation over and over again.
There's all kinds of things starting to go wrong with her now. They've got her on so much morphine that she would stop breathing and we'd have to say, "Sydney, breathe, breathe." They're saying, "Well, you gotta get her to move a little bit." So we'd have her walk around. She'd move her pole with IVs hanging in there. We were just trying to get 15 minutes down the road. At that point, I looked at Lynette one day when Sydney she would just pass out from the pain and the drugs. And I said, "Are you telling me you still believe in God?" Lynette looked back at me when I said that to her, which sure was not real helpful to the person in the trenches. And she said, I do trust him, but he's very unpredictable. And he is. This is ridiculous. I'm praying, take her or comfort us, but be with us. And I felt for days and weeks on end that it was just nothingness. And I would pray and read the Bible, and it was just blah, 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 nothingness. And one day I was staggering through New York City and thinking this through, and I have impressed on me that the impression is, were you there when I created the heavens and the earth? And my immediate thought was, I thought I was getting comfortable with there is no God, and I immediately go to, well, that was God who just responded. You know, my little girl's up there being tortured, and what you have apparently to say is that, was I there when he created the heavens and the earth? As I digested it over I don't know how long, I realized that I don't know how else, that was the most loving thing he possibly could have done or said to me, because you can sit there and explain to your little 3-year-old calculus, but he has it's just too far away for him to understand. I think he was trying to communicate that the difference between me and you, it doesn't get much farther than that. And so you're gonna need to decide, do I know what I'm doing or not?
There was a peace, but I was human. I was exhausted and anxious and fearful, but there was an overlying peace that he was there. Not that he was going to change my circumstances or anything like that, but that he was there.
I remember being in this room, and I was about to go to a soccer game and kind of getting a call that we needed to go to New York immediately.
We had time to get her brothers there, and we circled her bed and just prayed over her and told her, you can go. You know, you can go be with Jesus. He's waiting for you.
We were saying that we were saying, let go.
When she died, I was shocked. We can't fix this. We can't control it.
She died at dawn the next morning. As I was packing up our things, to leave the hospital, a monarch butterfly flew across the window. We were 9 stories up in downtown Manhattan, and I think that was a love letter from God, and that she was a new creation, that she was whole and healed and with him. I loved being back home, tried to just kind of pick up and keep going with life where I had left off, but yet it was very different without Sydney.
After Sydney went to heaven, I had a lot of anger.
And she'd lay down, shut her eyes and cry and wake up, and the first thing she'd do is cry.
There were times I felt so abandoned.
I'm gonna make something happen. Divorce.
I wanted everything to just go back to normal.
The weirdest things would cause me to cry.
That time in my life, I had never thirsted so much for what did God really promise.